Start us off, Callum.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Castpod. The stealing other people's content month is over, unfortunately, but we're continuing the trend anyways
Because we're
because
jerks.
Woo.
why not, right? If it's out there, why not use it? So
They don't call me the Radigan East of Mississippi for nothing.
they do call him that for some reason.
Who?
But
But
what?
Can I have a name?
can you have a name?
Of who calls Carter that?
Yeah. I'll
Hey,
scram. Everybody runs in opposite directions. Um, but today, speaking of Carter, we are stealing ideas from him and his
yeah,
his alternate show.
yes.
Yes.
My main podcast, The Disney Desk, we are, as the name explains, a Disney-centric show. And one time, well, so we did a Patreon's choice, and they wanted us to rank our three favorite MCU episodes. And I said, hey, can we add an extra element to this? It's something I've wanted to talk about for a while. It was drafting our dream Avengers teams. And it was honestly one of the most fun conversations I've ever had on any podcast. So Callum and Kevin decided, hey, why don't we throw this into our show too? And I'm like, absolutely, I'm down to clown. Um, so, would you guys like me to explain the basic idea?
Yeah, go for
Before
it.
before we get
Uh,
started, I'd like to point out I finally upped after multiple weeks. Like honestly, it should be measured in months more. I finally updated the picture that goes on in the background of the YouTube video, so it actually has Callum's up to date Twitch stream and Carter's included too in the graphic, and not just half-assedly added.
yeah, it's pretty
Uh,
nice. It looks good.
thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. You didn't make it.
I know, I did not.
Carter's just like, I'm happy to be included.
Yeah, I'm happy to be included. My brain is fried right now. I have been in the world of mice and men for too long.
The world of mice and
Um,
men. I spent the last like 4+ hours specifically only thinking about pro wrestling.
you
So,
maniac.
oh man, it was so great. George Kittle showed up. How great is that?
We love him.
Respect. Respect. You'll probably never win a Super Bowl because you always get stuck with mid quarterbacks. Oh, yeah, Kevin, we do need to. Okay.
We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we have time before the draft. Okay.
We've got
Anyway,
time.
so the premise for this episode is all of us get 5 picks to dream draft. Basically, the idea is we are Nick Fury. Some kind of global Avengers level threat has struck the Earth. We got to draft our dream team, the best of the best in our minds, to battle back the forces of evil. And I kind of tried to keep it vague because I feel like everyone has different approaches, whether you approach it from sheer power or like a broad set of abilities, a broad set of like spheres that exist in the Marvel universe, or just people you think would be fun stories. I leave any option on the floor for y'all, and I'm excited to get started.
Hmm. Well, I guess we have to decide who's going first, and my vote is for Carter because he's done
Yeah.
this before.
Oh,
I
okay.
agree,
Well,
Carter.
if we both agree, I'm not going to fight you guys. Okay. So I will say, and you guys are welcome to take this approach as well. I feel like if you want to have Captain America or Iron Man on your team, they should just be grandfathered in as like OG Avenger. Like they're always on the Avengers. You can just add them to your team, and that's that. So they won't count toward the 5 if you want to include them. So basically, I took it as the approach of like, let's just say I'm in the 60s, like I'm writing comics, and we're doing a bit where Loki comes to Earth and messes with the Hulk. Who is the team that comes together and then says, hey, we should be an Avengers team? All right, so I'm going to hit y'all with a curveball right off the bat. This is from our Disney Desk episode. So Thor is traditionally one of the main Avengers.
Oh, are you going for Beta Ray Bill?
No.
Ah.
That would be fun, but no. I'm going to hit you with a Valkyrie.
Oh yeah.
So pick number 1 is Valkyrie.
Okay.
Because I like the idea that The Valkyrie. What are the Valkyries? The Valkyries are like Odin's Black Ops team. They are the gals, the girl bosses who come in and clean up, take care of business for Odin. So Odin finds out Loki's causing trouble on Earth. He takes the lead Valkyrie aside and goes like, "Hey, listen, man. Look, Loki's causing trouble, and I would send Thor, but you know how Thor is with his brother. He can't, it always causes a mess. He either gets too emotional and forgives his brother, or like his brother tricks him and it causes disasters. Can you go in and deal with this cleanly?" Valkyrie ends up teaming up with Captain America, Iron Man, and the squad. And Odin goes, "Well, if they're forming a superhuman team, it would behoove me to have a representative from Asgard on Midgard." And Valkyrie gets like gifted, basically she gets anointed the defender of Midgard. And like you can still have Thor show up when you want, but Valkyrie is the main Avenger. She gets like Bifrost powers, she gets a cool sword. She's basically like Jason the Argonauts as a hero, where she gets all kinds of cool like magical abilities and stuff. I think that's a fun mix up for your Avengers team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Number two, I'm doing another sort of subversion one. Spectrum, as opposed to Captain Marvel. One thing I do like
Interesting.
from the MCU, Spectrum is Monica Rambeau from, if you remember WandaVision, the lady who goes into Westview and tries to talk Wanda off the ledge. That's Spectrum. She's going to appear in the Marvels. Um, One, I like having a spacefaring hero. Because, like, for me, like, I really do like all of the different spheres the MCU has, and I want to get as many of them in as I can. And one of them is sort of space. Like, sort of, you have to have someone on the Avengers who speaks for the spacefaring men. Us innocent spacemen. Um, and I like Spectrum because I do like the MCU depicting Captain Marvel kind of an aloof weirdo. Like, I like the idea that she's always like bouncing whenever there's Earth stuff to deal with. Like, one of my favorite moments is at the end of Shang-Chi when her and Bruce Banner are trying to figure out what's up with the rings, and she goes, "Oh, I gotta go. Bruce has, he can give it to you." And Bruce just kind of quietly goes, "She never gave me her number. She always does this." Like, I like the idea that she's just like, "Look, man, I'm the best. I have other things to deal with." Whereas Spectrum has a similar power base, but she's Earthbound. She's lived here her entire life. She never got abducted by aliens and sent to the pre-home world. So she fundamentally respects the authority of Earth. She respects S.H.I.E.L.D., she respects S.W.O.R.D., she respects sort of the United Nations depicting the Avengers. So, like, the UN would want her on the team because she can handle space stuff, but, she's of Earth. She respects Earth. That's, in general, a big approach I took of, like, I really like the Avengers. Like, for me, the Avengers are interesting as a government entity. Like, the idea of, like, the UN has come together and they're like, this is our super team. Whenever aliens come to Earth, this is who we're going to send to deal with it. And that's kind of why I don't include, like, Spider-Man or Miss Marvel or some of my faves. Because I'm like, you're not going to fucking put teenagers on a team that's supposed to go fight aliens.
And why not?
Because that's just too much to put on a child.
But they
Again,
have
we were
the
talking-
powers of a god.
No, because this was the whole rant I went on when this podcast started. Again, my favorite moment from, like, one of my favorite moments from a recent comic was Shazam, like, revealing to Superman that he's just a kid, and Superman being mortified. He straight up goes, "Who did this to you?" Because that's just too much to put on a kid. Anyway, so those are my first two picks. Third is Quake, who was a prominent character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in terms of, like, live action adaptations. I like her because I think earthquake powers are kind of like, her gimmick is she can cause seismic shifts in the earth. Her fists
Solid
are
power.
right. She's it's very similar to Shocker in a lot of ways of like, oh, I can create seismic blast, but it's more like earthy based. I like that because it's like, oh, that's a unique power compared to a lot of heroes. Like, I want everyone to bring something to the table. And also, she is an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, she works with S.H.I.E.L.D. a lot. So I like the idea that she's, like, the built-in hero for the team. of like, oh, Shield manages the Avengers, well, they want one of their guys on the squad.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, this is a fun one for me. Agent Venom. So this is
Okay.
Flash Thompson, who you guys know as. So Flash Thompson
Spider-Man's
is.
personal bully.
Yes, he is Peter Parker's bully who ironically loves Spider Man, who is inspired by heroes. He ends up joining the US military because he's a huge Captain America fan, and for a while in the comics, he ends up syncing up with Venom the symbiote. And his gimmick is he's basically Venom, but with a Call of Duty character. So he has like tactical options, he's got ammo belts, he's a soldier, but with the Venom powers. And like I said, I like the idea that the Avengers are like the government's superhuman team. And I like the idea that they're like, well, why don't we get this guy on the team? You know, Flash Thompson, American hero. Like, you know, he's a soldier. He fought in Afghanistan. He's a good man.
He's a real American.
Exactly. He's a real American. And it's like good PR to have like, you know, a good, hardworking American soldier on the team. And in terms of like storytelling, I like the idea because I feel like you always have to have at least one anti-hero on the team. Because I love the
Fair.
idea of yeah, because like Captain America is America's dad, and you have to have at least one villain as like anti-hero villain.
Gotta have America's mom.
Yeah, for Captain America to like put his arm around their shoulder and go, "You got the making of greatness in you, but you gotta get it together." And also, like, in terms of, like, Avengers stories...
I'm gonna kill this kitten.
No! The Avenger... Like, I like the idea that the government goes, like, oh, wait a minute, there's a whole planet of these things? We can make super soldiers! And they inadvertently bring the entirety of symbiote planet on Earth. Like, I like... It's frustrating because, like, I kind of like the idea of villain stuff. But, like, in execution, it always annoys me, because I'm like, it's always cringe and too grimdark. But I like the idea that there's this whole planet of symbiotic creatures. And, like, I would love the idea that a bunch of, like, crappy US government stooges end up bringing this planet of goopy aliens down on Earth, and the Avengers have to fight them off. And for my fourth pick, for my final pick, this was a tough one. I was torn between two people. I'm not going to pick Circe of the Eternals because, again, I like the Eternals being their own independent entity. I'm going to hit you with a Moon Knight. Let's go!
I thought he was building up to be something unexpected from him, and turns out very expected from him.
No, because all of my unexpected... See, because I have a lot of unexpected picks, but all of them, I'm like, well, I don't want them to be on the Avengers. Like, Squirrel Girl's too good to be on the Avengers. She's too talented. But anyway, so I want Moon Knight on the team, not because I expect him to be a long-term, like, member of the team, but because he makes an interesting story. Like, I like the idea of one supernatural hero being on the team. Like, I like one guy who deals with, like, well, one, the Pantheon alongside Valkyrie, but also, like, the sort of, like, mummies and werewolves side of the MCU. And I think it would just be an interesting story to have this OG member of the Avengers. Like, I like the idea that they're in the middle of fighting some, like, conflict, and he snaps back into another personality. Like, he goes from Mark to Steve, and Steve is just like, what the hell is happening? Where am I? What is going on?
Who are you people?
Yeah, who are you people? Why am I in a suit? What the hell is happening? And the rest of the Avengers suddenly realize, like, oh, this guy who we thought was, like, our, like, muscle man, like, our guy who rolls in and starts, like, murking fools, like, he is not in control of his body. And then that leads to Valkyrie going to that, like, golden place where all the gods are and being like, hey, Khonshu, you need to let this guy go. This is unethical at best. Like, I'm interested in making fun stories for the Avengers to interact with. And the idea that they bring this guy in who just can kind of do everything, who's, like, the confident, mercenary-esque figure, only to discover that in reality, he's a guy who's not in control of himself. That's an interesting conflict.
True. I won't deny that.
Yeah.
All right. Who's next?
So, before I forget, Carter, can you just enter your picks in the Discord, just so I
Oh
could
yeah.
possibly refer to them at a later date, and then Callum after you give yours. But first, I'm gonna say it's me because I don't want some of my picks being stolen. If I'm being
All right, do
honest. All right, so I'm gonna start with the one that's already been known to be an Avenger, and my computer's gonna have the Discord boop boop sound for a couple times. Um, the one that's already clearly an Avenger, Scarlet Witch. I little OP. I feel like though she covers a huge range of things with her powers of probability. Personally, I'd prefer not the MCU version, but like the X-Men version, like X-Men comics version of her, where she's not a grieving mother or confused teen raised in a laboratory. Like, I want like the daughter of Magneto version, if that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Oh, that tracks.
The mutant power of changing probability, not the scientifically given power.
Right.
Very strong, has the ability to eliminate literally an entire species if she wants. I feel like she's a solid choice for being on the team, and she just covers so much ground that it's kind of like silly not to say her.
Honestly,
Yeah.
she's one of the earliest Avengers.
Um, Also, being honest, my team is a glorified version of X-Men. Huge X-Men fan.
I was also going to talk about that, but yeah.
Yeah, huge. I'm a huge X-Men fan. I like the mutant aspect. But like, so it's like a lot of my picks. I think all except for one of my picks are on some version of the X-Men. Next pick, I want like a big heavy hitter. I went with Colossus.
Colossus, nice.
The huge metal body, heavy duty. He can definitely hold his own against a lot of characters. Like he's not, and also something that's very big with me, and you guys, I'm assuming, realize it with my D&D characters. There's got to be like some sort of weakness to him, or like it's not like I never go for OP. I want some sort of character flaw. And with Colossus, while he's a very strong individual when he's in his metal form, being super powered up, he's not always like that. He can be weakened, unlike some other ones. Like the Hulk only gets stronger with rage, and that goes for the 2 OP aspect. Like I want my characters to I want them to be able to fight against the big bad evil guy, but I don't want them to like clearly outmatch them. Where if you go to like comic versions of Hulk, where the more mad he gets, the stronger he gets, regardless of to any exterior conditions. And they kind of show that in Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes a little bit. The matter, like, I don't want that. That feels a little too OP for me. And I want it to be a little like I want my team to fight. Like, they still win, but there's going to be a fight about it. And I know it's a little hypocritical with picking Scarlet Witch already. However,
Her powers that well, so that's respectable.
yeah. It's like, it's 50-50 on how her ability to control is. And then, the next on the list, another X-Men, Gambit. He
I was tempted to include him.
covers a lot of stealth-based things. Also, his ability of basically like a not pyrokinesis, but like
Kinesis.
yeah, like the transference of kinetic energy is phenomenal. He can charge anything he wants, and he's a schemer, and I love me a good schemer, where he can talk and chat like and weasel his way into underground things. He's got the ability to lockpick. He's honestly a dream D&D character.
Included with the silly accent.
Including with the silly accent, he has got the southern charm, which I did not do an accent of, despite saying southern charm.
I felt it in the...
But he's got that Bayou Nowlands, like that kind of accent. He seems like a choice, like a little bit of an underdog choice, but definitely an interesting choice.
Oh yeah, unique.
And between also with Colossus and then him and Colossus covers the close range things. Gambit and Scarlet Witch control mid range ish. Scarlet Witch can do longer ranges. I focused on ranges as opposed to in somewhat abilities.
Yeah, I like that.
Next pick, probably a lesser known pick, and a little bit of a sleeper pick. Bishop from a mutant ability where he turns energy hit against him into energy he turns it into kinetic energy, and typically in pulses or laser beams or stuff. I feel like that's an underrated power.
Yeah.
Because you got say let's go with Juggernaut. Say Colossus isn't there because the Avengers aren't together at all times like other teams are. They're kind of they're a bunch of solo acts that, oh, there's a big thing, let's combine together, Avengers assemble, and do their thing.
Right.
So say it's Bishop going against Colossus. He's taking hit after hit from not Colossus, Juggernaut. And he's turning that into energy he can use to fight back. I feel like on a physical level, that's kind of a stupidly great power. Obviously he has his weaknesses and weak points, but that seemed to me like something I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm a big fan of Bishop. I'm not the hugest X-Men person, but I like Bishop as a character. Yeah, I respect that one.
Yeah, that's a good choice. It's definitely useful in a lot of situations.
Yeah. And just that, it's that energy transference is what kind of sold me on him.
Yeah.
And my last pick, which I'm going to say is my leader, this is the first name I wrote down, Iron Fist.
What?
Yeah, no, I went with Iron Fist as the leader. He's got, depending on the Iron Fist, most of them have that calm and collected mentality, which, in my opinion, is a very leader trait. He would be able to make those tough judgment calls. However, he's not going to just blindly go into situations. He might not be as strategic as Captain America about things, due to lack of military training. However, he's got that, I guess, calm mind about the situations. Plus, he's got his own abilities of the Iron Fist. It's a close combat ability, so he's going to be going into situations head first, in my opinion, a true leader should be, where he's not going to be waiting in the wings alright, get him, guys, I'll finish him off. He's going to be on the front lines. And if you combine his abilities with some of the others in my group's abilities, it can make some things happen. If you combine him just punching Bishop enough and then Bishop releasing the energy in a different direction, that's a solid team up attack.
Yeah,
I like
that
that.
could work.
And then while Gambit can charge things up, if he's using his Iron Fist to send the shit flying, that can cause some damage.
Oh yeah.
I will say I respect this pick. Like, I guess like I have to turn off my brain and not think about the MCU where Iron Fist sucks.
Oh,
Because
don't think about
Iron
that
Fist
version.
as
Please don't think
yeah,
about that
because
version.
just in the general context of having an Iron Fist on your team, that's actually super. Like that makes complete sense because
Yeah.
it's like the Avatar thing of just like having the bestest like warrior on your team. I respect that.
Yeah, I'd like to specifically point out it is not the Netflix version of Iron Fist.
Yeah,
Literally, like 3 MCU things that's actually.
I really like Iron Fist, like in the cartoons.
Yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man does great.
Yeah, so like, it really is just that one show that made him pretty lame.
It was somehow the first season of Arrow, but worse. Tell me I'm wrong.
Honestly, no.
Tell
it's
me I'm
straight-
wrong.
It's
Yep.
the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
huge
But
Arrow
somehow
season
West
1
Coast-
fan. Loved Arrow season 1, but and Iron Fist was literally just that, but worst.
Yeah.
But so I felt like that was I felt like he was the first name I wrote down. When I think of underrated heroes and characters, he was my go-to. I want him to be the leader.
Hmm.
Like fantasy comic book making. If if the ghost of Stan Lee comes up to me and goes, "All right, kid, you got to make one character to make them show up and like really do good." I would pick Iron Fist.
I like it. All right.
Also, I'd like to put out some honorable mentions for my team of people that
Oh.
might have made the cup if it was a bigger team.
Yeah, please do.
Spider-Gwen
Spider-Gwen, nice.
and
Yeah.
Nightcrawler.
Oh, I love Nightcrawler.
Big Nightcrawler guy.
If one spider character was going to join, it would be Spider Gwen, just because she's like more of a professional.
Yeah. I also just didn't want Peter Parker. However, Peter Porker, Spider-Ham,
Yeah.
would
That
have
guy could be in any team.
considered accepting him.
Well, see, that's like I almost included Shang-Chi, but I almost put him in camp as Spider-Man, where he's like he needs money, so he just rolls up and is like, "Hey, is this a job?" And they're like, "No," and he's like, "Okay, goodbye." Like I love that the first numbered issue of Spider-Man is him rolling up to the Baxter Building, beating up all of the Fantastic Four, and being like, "As you can see, I'm an S tier character, so I'm gonna need your best contract that you can provide." And they're like, "We are a scientific research organization. The superheroing is more incidental than anything. We don't. What are you talking? Please leave, sir."
Had to prove a point.
Yeah, I mean, he did prove a point, and that's why he's the best or the most popular superhero still.
That's right.
Sure.
All right.
Were those all of your honorable
That was
mentions?
all my honorable mentions, just those two.
I'll say mine
Gotcha.
after Count goes. Hit it, count
Yeah.
them.
All right. So mine are, Kevin and I are similar. Surprise.
Oh dear God.
So I. No, you didn't say any of my choices.
Oh really?
But but I will say that I too am a huge fan of the X-Men. I think they're probably my favorite Marvel team, and I know that
I feel like with the MCU, they don't get the credit that they should compared. Like
they really don't. The problem is like they've shown them in so many instances, right? There have been so many X-Men-esque things.
I think it's the movie aspect, honestly. Because if you look at like X-Men Evolution, Wolverine and the X-Men, X-Men the animated series, quality X-Men cartoons, and then you have like Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, quality Avengers cartoon.
Hmm.
Like, in my opinion, those are equal. But when you get to the like movie level, I guess media, X Men shits the bed, and Avengers grade looks phenomenal.
Yeah, because like the problem is obviously the X Men are popular, and so they tried to put out as many X Men related things as they could before they really knew how to make good superhero movies. Like
Hmm.
once Marvel started rolling out like decent movies, everyone was like, "Oh, so superhero movies can be enjoyable to a larger audience other than just nerds. That's pretty cool."
It's
But
crazy.
but they had already put out so much X-Men content, and because of the whole Fox situation, they were like, "Well, we can't just do more X-Men. The people don't want more X-Men anymore. Like they've had enough of the X-Men."
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm like, "No, I want more." And then they obviously came back with that other series of movies where they're younger, and those ones
Oh yeah.
were terrible.
Yeah,
First Class had a great concept.
I liked First Class.
right.
I liked Days of Future Past, bits and pieces of it. And then the other ones had good moments. Like I think the casting was great. I think they did perfect with the casting of the characters.
They really
Um, but like Apocalypse was disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Can agree to that.
Um, and the Dark Phoenix was so disappointing.
The Dark Phoenix was nothing. It was pixie dust.
The
It
It
was
was
the
like
Dark
studio that knew
Phoenix
they were
done
gonna
in
pull it
X
out.
Men the animated series was great.
it's so
Dark
cool.
Phoenix in the movie, dog shit.
It's such an
How can they fuck it up?
interesting aspect, but like they decided to take one of the most recognizable things about one of the most famous X-Men characters and be like, yeah, but that's like, but like what if aliens were there too? And they're like, who is this? I don't care who these antagonists are. The main antagonist is supposed to be the hero that we know, not this group of whatever
Well,
unrecognizable B plot characters.
I've heard a lot of scuttlebutt that they were supposed to be more defined as alien Marvel sort of patina, and it got changed at the last minute. I think a lot of it was like, um, I think a lot of it was just. I genuinely think a lot of it was just like we know the studio's getting bought out. This era of X Men movies is over. Who fucking cares? I
Yeah.
genuinely adore X Men First Class. It is genuinely one of my top 10 comic book movies. I think it is so good. It is what I wanted from an X Men movie this whole time. Because for
Hmm.
me, the problem with the X Men movies is it came out in that early comic book era where they didn't think people would like comic book movies. And whereas Blade could lean into the Matrixy elements of it, X and Spider Man was made by Sam Raimi, who is a achingly sincere human being, so it was basically a perfect Spider Man movie. Like X-Men was so ashamed to be a comic book movie. Like, and again, I know this is like fanboy nitpicking, but the fact that they had that freaking line where it's like, "What would you want us wearing yellow spandex?" It's like,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's why I like the fucking characters, you asshole. And
It is
I mean,
funny
on
though,
top of
in that same line, how they couldn't decide what was too far because then they also still made Hugh Jackman's hair all spiky like that a
Yeah.
few
right,
times, and it just looked not good.
yeah,
Also,
it just they couldn't commit to anything.
yeah, I don't think it was mentioned, but it's just like there's so many like just deep tracks with X Men in that universe that
Hmm.
makes it phenomenal. Like they mention it in X Men, I think X Men 3, um, where it's like Magneto was held in a concentration camp,
Yeah,
and it's literally the top post of the Marvel Reddit of all time, where
really.
one of the other mutants is just like, ah, if you're a mutant, where's your mark? And it's him showing his arm and going like, I've let I've let humans touch my skin, like I've let a needle touch my skin once, never again. And
Hmm.
it's like
Well, that's why I well, that's
that's
why I love First Class.
that's a deep cut, and that is phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's well, that's why I love First Class because it's like I don't know, it leans into that energy of like Like, I love the fact that, like, even if you didn't know the comics, you would never doubt for a second that Magneto is going to turn evil. Like, you
No.
never doubt for a second he's going to turn against humanity because they do such a good job characterizing him as someone who has fully been black-pilled. He is a full-blown nihilist who sees no worth in, like, regular humanity. And I don't know, it's just such a good no, we have to focus because like we have a specific mission here, but like I
X
could go off on X-Men First Class
X
for so long about
Men's
how
gonna be another conversation, honestly. At this point,
we should
I wanted to bring them up just because I have a few on my list, and so I wanted to explain like my history in that I love them. They have not done well in the movies, and I cannot wait for them to come back.
right. And
Um,
it's like again, people are mad about Marvel buying Fox, but it's like, hey, don't be, at the end of the
they
day, it's
can
like
do
it's
something
not
good.
right.
yeah,
It's not my job to fix the evils of capitalism, but I will enjoy the fact that like I will get versions of these characters that are good and true to the source material and also not directed by multiple sex pests. Uh, but I digress. Callum, give us your roster. Let's
yeah.
go.
Yeah, let's
So
get back on track.
to start out with the leader, a lot of, like I said, a lot of these are going to be X-Men, but they're also fairly recognizable, and so I tried not to include I tried to do a mix of like very recognizable and some that are like, oh, interesting. But the leader of my team would be Wolverine.
Great
And
choice, in my opinion.
What?
Yeah.
Great choice.
The reason for that is because that he, well, first of all, has led several teams. I don't think he is the best leader. I think there are other characters that fit the leader role better.
But
But
that's
I
also
think,
going into what I was talking about with like a flawed
yeah,
team.
yeah. I think he's good because, like, if we're thinking in a disaster sort of situation, like last minute, like we gotta do something, I think he would be one of the guys to be like, all right, everybody shut up. This is what we're doing.
He
And
absolutely
like,
would be.
would gather the masses together. And also, he's just insane power wise. Kevin was saying he doesn't like people who are OP. I have a few OP characters on here because I think he like
Honestly,
sometimes it's
I'd
just nice.
I'd argue that Wolverine isn't OP for his
No.
just general weakness. I'm just saying like his general weakness against Magneto. I would argue he's not OP.
No, yeah. I'm not gonna argue that Wolverine is OP. I'm saying few of my characters from here are gonna be OP.
Okay.
But
Um,
Wolverine has obviously like infinite regeneration and unbreakable bones, and is just like a menace. Like he's not super fast and not super strong, but he is just like this ravenous little beast that will like throw himself at anything, and because he can't be like broken, he's just gonna keep coming back no matter how big the foe is.
Almost like a
Uh,
Wolverine.
I
some
will
might say,
say I do respect your pick again, as because I framed the Avengers as like a government agency. I like the idea that they're like, hey, you were the best result of Task Force X. You're gonna have to, you're gonna have to be a part of this team.
All right, hold on.
That's
I just like to put on the docket for Castpod recordings, full X Men talk because Task
oh,
Force X and all that stuff is like ooh.
ooh.
I
Yeah.
would have pointed out that Wolverine was part of Captain America's team in the World War II for a hot minute
I was
I
gonna
mean
say,
again,
yeah,
before
that
Task
he
Force
was a
X.
soldier. So
I maintain one of the they could make a great episode of What If. What if the invaders existed? So it would just be Captain America, the Human Torch, the original Human Torch, who's like a robot, Namor. And then if you want to have fun, you add Wolverine and Black Panther, and it's like, oh, super team, yeah.
Mhm.
Listen to the future
Well,
Castpods where we talk about X
well,
Men.
they are doing that video game that's Captain America and Black Panther teaming up. I'm like, do the whole thing, just be Gonzo with it.
Oh, I forgot
Have
about that.
all
Big
of that.
Gonzo
Yeah,
guy over here.
Big Gonzo.
Gonzo
Welcome to the
show up
Muppets
and like
episode.
shoot himself out of a cannon to smite the Nazis. Do that.
That is my second Avengers Gonzo. Um,
Wait, hold on.
Right,
Marvel's
he's an
owned by
artist.
Disney as well as Jim Henson's owned by Disney. Does that mean that Gonzo can technically show up in an Avengers movie?
Or the Avengers could be
Oh
Muppets.
yeah,
Or the Avengers could be Muppets,
honestly,
even better.
they should. You know what? You know what they should have done in Quantumania to they should have
Muppets?
had a bit where Scott Lang shows up on an episode of the Muppets. Yeah, because like in Rocky 3, there's the bit where Rocky shows up on the Muppet Show. So do that with Ant Man. It would have been. It would have killed.
I
Would
would
have
have
killed.
giggled the entire time.
Yeah. Well, this is why Kevin Feige needs to start cutting me checks because I got these
Mhm.
ideas.
Alright, Callum, what's your
Coming
next
big.
idea?
All right, so my next idea is kind of like the vice captain of the team that is like the counter to Wolverine, and that is Doctor Strange.
Interesting.
Because I wanted to have someone mystical, to cover
Fair.
the bases. And I feel like Doctor Strange is just the perfect counter to Wolverine in so many aspects, in that, like, Doctor Strange is smart, he's like thinking about the millions of possibilities of things. He's using magic for the most part. He's typically like kind of calm and collected, but also like a crazy doctor, and like will do some kind of wild, outlandish things and be like, "Why'd you do that?" And he's like, "I don't know. I'm a magic man." Um,
Tell me your secrets, Magic Man.
and so and he's also very cocky, and so I feel like he would butt heads with Wolverine a lot, but at
Fact.
the same time, because they're doing that, they're like bringing the best out of each other in
Okay.
you know like these opposites attract kind of thing, where it's like we're going to get multiple viewpoints on how things should go, but in the end Wolverine's still kind of on top making the decisions. And they also
Alright.
cover each other's bases with Wolverine being close combat crazy guy, and Doctor Strange kind of sitting back and throwing some spells out there from a
A
distance.
very a very Raph versus Leonardo esque relationship. I like it.
Hmm. And he can also be like stealthy, because I feel like you also need some kind of spy
That's
aspect
why I
to
picked
your
Gambit.
team. Yeah, and so I feel like Doctor Strange could just, I don't know, turn himself invisible, or at like literally anything, to just kind of stealth around if he wanted to. Not typically his role, but like it could be something he could do. Next, this is a character that I've known about for a little while and have not seen enough of him in things. His name is Reptile.
Okay, I
And
like that.
so, Reptile, if you don't know, is this character that can take on aspects of dinosaurs. He is like the one character from DC who I had her name and now I'm blanking on it, but she had like this magic necklace that allowed her to take on
Ah, I know who you're talking
different
about.
things. Yeah, she's wearing like an orange jumpsuit. And she could like take on the powers of different animals, and so like she could make herself really heavy like an elephant, throw really heavy punches, or she could be really acrobatic like a cat. And so that's this guy, but he does it with dinosaurs, and so he can like grow pterodactyl wings, or he can get these big raptor claws. And I just think he's sick, and I think if I were to pick like what Marvel character would I want to be, if I could self insert, it would be him, because it's just like just such a dope power set, and also great utility. Like I said, he can grow wings. He can probably, I don't think they've ever shown it, but like probably swim around, hold his breath for a really long time. Probably not grow gills, because that's not a dinosaur thing, but like he can do a bunch of different stuff that's very interesting and very similar to my interest, and so I felt like I had to include him there.
I like it.
Um, and so the most OP character that I included in my list is another X-Men, and it is Darwin. And
Really?
Oh
so,
man.
like,
Uh huh.
we were talking about First Class, and so now I vent my frustrations on how they did my man Darwin dirty in that movie. Are you
They
kidding
really
me?
did.
You dropped
They
that like
did.
Just like
hot ball down his throat and he died instantly.
he
All he could
exploded.
do was grow gills. You gotta be kidding me. This man is unkillable. He is the ultimate
It's this whole
like
bit.
living creature, in that
That's
he
a good
cannot
one.
die and he will adapt to anything.
That's a
So
really good
again,
one.
utility.
Yeah, I
He
like
can
that
do
one. I can
whatever
see it.
you need him to do. You need a heavy hitter, he'll just get bigger and stronger. You need somebody to go underwater, he gets the gills, like in the movie. You need him to do anything, and he will survive and he will do the job you need him to do. And he's great. He's OP and he's great.
Great pick. Like, I'm not even upset about the OP-ness of him.
Hmm.
Just a genuinely great pick.
Is so good, and they did him so dirty.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that. Um, and then my last pick is actually a split between two, because I can't quite decide which one I want. I'm leaning towards one more than the other, but I thought, what's something that like this team is missing? Like we have, you know, a leader, we have close combat, we have distance and mystic, we have some utility characters that can kind of fill any role. And I'm like, we need somebody very smart and very technologically in tune with things. And so typically you would think like, oh, Iron Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's great with technology, he's smart, he's a leader. And I'm like, no, not interesting enough. So I'm thinking my main choice would be Vision,
Ooh,
but my
I like that.
second choice that I also thought about, but to now make it two X-Men-y, would be Forge. The
Ooh, underrated.
right,
Forge is another underrated character.
Very useful card in this set.
Um,
yeah,
I would,
exactly.
I would personally, out of the two, pick Vision.
Yeah, I was thinking
Purely,
that too.
a little bit like he's just genuinely better than Forge.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because I was like, at first I was like, man, I'll go with Forge because like that's cool. He can, you know, communicate with technology, can build anything you could ever want.
Great character
Super
though,
sick.
yeah.
But then I was like, well, Vision is also really he can do anything technological. He's also incredibly smart because he
Mm-hmm.
just has the entire internet in his brain. Um, but also he's super strong. He's intangible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he is Martian Manhunter, but a robot. It's just like there's just so much more going on for Vision that Forge can't quite keep up with, and so I think Vision takes that spot for smart tech person with
Mm-hmm.
also other useful abilities. Um, so that would be my main team, and then honorable mentions. Number one would be Spider Man because I love Spider Man. It's a classic choice. Everybody loves Spider Man.
Eh.
Is overused, but like he's just dope, you know? He's like he's great comic relief, which every team needs.
Mm-hmm.
He's super resourceful in that like, he can be sneaky, he can, web around so he can get places really quick. He's much stronger than people give him credit for. Like you think of heavy hitters, typically you don't think of Spider-Man, but Spider-Man is actually like insanely strong and he is almost always just holding back on people because he's a nice guy and doesn't want to kill people. But like when he gets mad, you know what the Hulk says? Like he can mess
Brr,
people up. He does
I'm the
say that.
Hulk.
Exactly. So I love Spider Man, and I think he would be great, but I decided not to include him because it's like too easy. And then another choice I would have would be Rogue from the X Men, because again, I'm
So
thinking
good.
of like who can do whatever job you need them to do. Why not the person that can have any power as long as they touch him? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like she's just so useful for so many reasons, and like I think she's just a great addition to the team. And also, you know what? It adds a woman to the team, and I think that's necessary as well.
Yeah, I will admit I did that. Like, I don't want my team to be a bunch of guys. Let's brainstorm some options here.
Yeah,
I don't want my team to be as white as crackers, as I say.
that's true. But yeah, I will type in my team, but those are my choices.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'll just throw in mentions real quick. I realize I didn't do them at the time. So I'll try to keep it brisk because, like, I could do 100 of them. So I thought about having like Excalibur or Black Knight on the team because I
Mm-hmm.
like the idea that like it's like the UN's like, okay, we have a team of superheroes, and the UK is like, oh no, these are all Americans. Absolutely not. We need our representation on this team, and they force through like the lady who found Excalibur or Black Knight who has the dark sword. Um, Another one for me is Amadeus Cho because I like the idea of having a Hulk on the team, but again,
Hmm.
like I I love that one MCU short that's Agent Coulson and the other guy talking about oh shoot, the government won't let us put Hulk on this team. They want Abomination. So it's like, oh, we can have a Hulk who isn't uh, a renegade. Cool. We'll
Mm-hmm.
take that. Like
I
like
thought about
cool
having a
good
Hulk as
guy.
well.
Yeah, because I feel like you just have to. Because again, I did all of these different spheres for the MCU while making this list of like metahumans, government agents, tech science, magic, space, mythology, street level, supernatural. And the big one I had was Gamma, because it's like there's so much Gamma stuff in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
It
Hmm.
felt
Yeah.
weird not having it.
I'd love to have to talk
Shang-Chi,
about just gamma rays and X rays and just, the light spectrum and other
yeah,
wavelengths at some point.
let's all get
Hmm.
radiated. Let's all just, get poisoned by
Honestly, with the
radiation.
amount I've been X rayed and MRI'd and shit over the years, I might be very. That might be
Yeah,
why I just
let's just say Ecto's
naturally run
Pharaoh.
warm.
God. Um,
I don't believe in getting cold.
Yeah,
um,
and that's her superpower.
It really is. It's a lower tier X Men power. I'm not making the team, but I'll get an honorable episode.
You could be one of the ones in the school where people are trying to like get the X-Men disbanded. It's like, hey, there are plenty of mutants that are just like normal people, and this
Hi,
guy just doesn't get cold.
hi, it's me. I just don't get cold.
And they're like, I'm
well,
I'm not like weird. I just don't get cold.
that's interesting because this like Joss Whedon thoroughly canceled man, but like Joss Whedon gimmick he added to the X Men is like, oh, the mutant gene isn't that diverse, so like Iceman could theoretically have the powers of Storm, but he just focuses on ice.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
no.
that's
Hard no.
an interesting idea.
That's not
Yeah, I
how it
don't know,
Uh,
it's an
works.
interesting idea, but it's not fun.
it's just
It's
like
more fun
everybody
to
is a
say at
god,
all.
but they just focus on one thing.
Right, it's less fun when you think of it that way. Um,
Like, what about
but
that
yes,
poor blob guy that's just a blob?
Oh, the blob.
what's his deal? But
He
yes,
like
my
stop
other
focusing on being fat.
I thought about having armor because I like the idea of a really deep character, but like Miss Marvel's basically power. Um, and then Squirrel Girl was my ultimate like wild card pick, but again, I love the gimmick in West Coast Avengers that she greatly she was on a
I
like
think she's Great
side
Lake.
Avengers team. Yes, thank you. She was on Great Lakes Avengers and quickly realized like, oh, I'm too good. They're not living up to the potential. They're letting me handle it. So I'm gonna leave so they can motivate.
I
And
think
then they have
that's the
Google.
most OP character we've mentioned.
Hmm.
Right. And I just honestly my favorite comic, like the one comic I can see beatable squirrel because I just love the idea of like this unstoppable force of nature who ultimately is like, well, it's too easy. Why don't I rehabilitate them? One of the greatest comic panels of all time is the back and forth with her and Rhino where she just goes, I think you just need a rebranding. Like you have a horn on your head, why not become a unicorn? And then it just cuts to like Rhino just staring into space, and then just the smallest text box you can possibly have. Oh my god! And then like you got, then she goes into space to stop Galactus from, and they ultimately bond over the fact that they both fucking hate Thanos. Where she's like, "Yeah, I beat up Thanos," and Galactus goes, "Oh, what a douche."
Love that.
And then like an actually like dark emotional bit where she talks to Craven and is like, "Hey man, you don't need to hunt humans. Like we live in a all these cool monsters. Like you could actually help people and still do your same thing." And like she like speaks up for him at a trial where he's gonna get put in jail. And Spider-Man of all people is like the villain of this comic. He comes in prosecution as a witness, and it's like, yeah, this guy shot me. He buried me alive. No, you shouldn't let him off with it. Um, yeah, Squirrel Girl is like, if I could just pick one character to read their comics for, probably Squirrel. But at the same time, I'm like, she's too good. She's above this.
Mm.
If you're looking for a very sort of well aspect of entertainment, Marvel's podcast network has a Squirrel Beatable radio show where she just hosts a radio show as a supervillain keeps coming in and it's very fun.
Alright. We got a hot minute left on the old clock. Based off of our teams that are written in the Discord. And I'm going to say, can't vote for your own. Hard can't vote for your own. Our teams are fighting. Who's an Avengers level threat that I can think of? Let's go. I was gonna say let's go. Let's go. Red Skull and an army of Hydra agents.
And a big wheel.
Sure.
Yeah,
a real big wheel.
that's an Avengers level threat.
So, in that situation, the battle will be fought in the lovely location of Australia. You know, mix things up.
Love that.
Oh God, save the blue healers.
Which of the goddamn it, Carter? Which of the other two people's teams do you feel like would have the best chance of winning?
All right, who's going first?
We can just do the same order.
Yeah. All right, Carter, you vote first.
Oh, okay. They're really, both of them are really good because you both have like an OP magic person. I'm gonna go with Kevin's team because I like the idea of having the Immortal Iron Fist. Bishop is just a damage sponge, and Scarlet Witch is like the ultimate wild card. She can just cheat to win the day. I gotta go with her.
Thank you. I respect that, and I love you for it. However, my vote would be for Callum's team for one
You piece of shit.
I decided this before you even spoke on who you would pick for one person and one person alone, and it's Wolverine. Like basic, like not even thinking about Red Skull, just thinking of the basic level Hydra grunts that are there. They're not equipped to be able to deal enough damage that takes down Wolverine. Like not including Doctor Strange, not including Darwin, not including Vision. Wolverine alone will slice and dice the shit through that crowd.
Yeah. I mean, Wolverine's the best at what he does, and just make.
He's the Bret Hart of the Marvel MCU.
He just makes people look like they just dropped their order from the Olive Garden. And because they're Hydra agents, you can slaughter them en masse. Basically.
It's just killing a bunch of Nazis. No one cares.
Whatever you want. Right? Again, he can do whatever he wants. Instead of using his claws, he can do it and Jerry, like Goldberg machines, the ding dong, and everyone would applaud.
We should make a Rube Goldberg machine at some point.
No, there's no good ending to that. That's impossible.
All right, Callum, me or Carter?
So I think Carter makes a good point with Kevin's team in that like they're all very strong, and obviously Scarlet Witch is like a insta win in most instances. But I kind of want to go with Carter's team, not only to make it perfectly even, but also because
is it Spectrum?
It's partially Spectrum, but also I feel like individually, each of these heroes could probably take on the army themselves and be
all right. Yeah, no,
like,
I won't deny Valkyrie, Spectrum, probably Quake, definitely Moon Knight can take on the army by themselves.
Yeah.
Moon Knight's whole bit is just beating up a bunch of guys.
And that's what the goal is for the the grunt version.
Yeah. So it's like you're thinking basically like there's just a bunch of random guys with guns and Red Skull who probably has something sneaky up his sleeve, but like each of these could go in against an army of regular guys with guns and just be like, bam, 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 you're all done. But like put them all together and like you're covering their, all of their backgrounds. And I think one really important thing that Carter's team has is
Women.
women, but also flight abilities.
That's
It's
true.
like, I feel like controlling the air with Valkyrie
Yeah.
is huge against a bunch of guys on the ground.
That's
and
fair.
Spectrum can fly, and Moon Knight can
And
kind
Spectrum
of
can fly, yeah.
Yeah. On my, I was gonna say on my team, I only have Scarlet Witch who can fly, and then if you get into the real like nitpicky, she can make people fly. But if you're looking at people that can just straight up fly,
Yeah.
just like how you have Vision and Doctor Strange that can straight up fly, I just have Scarlet Witch.
Like
In
I think
terms
your
of-
team could easily do it as well. I like Carter's combination.
I mean, again, I just like superheroes who can fly. The most I've ever cried at a comic is Shazam, because they set up like a Freddy, like Billy's sort of main foster brother, being like, yeah, everyone wants flight as a super because superheroes fly. That's what they do. And then the rest of his foster family gets powers. He's the one who flies, and he's like, "I'm flying," and you see his like little like cane fall to the ground. Oh, that just pulling out for my sad homies.
Alright.
But yes, perfectly balanced, which means we'll just smash all at Thanos, and that should basically cover it.
I was gonna say the only way to solve this conundrum is in the comments section of this YouTube video.
Dun, dun, dun. Yes, vote for your favorite team in the comments. Let us know who you like and who did we miss? Who are some sleeper hits in the Marvel universe that we should have included?
Yeah.
Big whale, probably.
I love me some Big Wheel.
Well, there's
Big wheel.
there's only one thing to say at this point in the episode. Callum, send us home.
Thank you everybody so much for listening. We have had a great time stealing content. We will continue to do so, but eventually we will make original content as well. Original in quotation marks. But yeah, let us know what you thought of this episode, what you think we should have included, and what you would want to include, and who won. And we will see you all in the next one.
Okay, bye.